Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And today is, I reckon, the sixth Instagram Live that we're doing. So got last week we had 10 questions and then had a few answered during the Instagram Live. And today we've got 20 questions on the book. So hopefully it doesn't go, I'll try not to make it go too long, but I'm going to answer all the questions. So, but still, if you have a question that you want answered during the Instagram Live, feel free to type it in down the bottom and I'll get to it after the next question I'm at. So the first question is a cracker that came in late last week. So that's the first one. It's from Evergreen Garden and Landscape Solutions. Do you meet on site or at the shed in the mornings? So it's a good question. And I was messaging him back and forth about the pros and cons of both. So if you were to, so we meet at our shed, because we're only a small crew, so there's only three of us, and sometimes we have three vehicles. But if you, for example, if we had an extra person on, I wouldn't want them feeling left out. Like, I feel like they're missing out on something by them meeting at site. So profitability wise, it's no question you'd want as many people to meet on site as you can. But there's certain, I don't know what the word is. You got to have some team morale as well. So there's certain value in that you have. So meeting, like you might chat for 15 minutes at the shed in the morning, but that can help with efficiency on site because, all the guys get along well and they talk about how each other's weekend was and that sort of thing. So, it's not like if you've got a massive company, obviously you want heaps of people meeting on site because if you sit down and work out, 15 minutes every day for three people, every day for a week, and then if you do it daily for a year, add that up, and what the hourly rate is, it adds up to a lot of money. So profitability wise, it makes sense meeting on site, but looking deeper into it, it might even be better not doing that and just meeting at the shed so you can help the morale. So then you don't have to have like an event, like take them out for lunch or anything specifically to build morale because you've just got that happening naturally. Next question is from Tom Lynch. Not either of the footballers, as far as I'm aware. How do you balance work life, and when do you find time to do the quoting and other paper or computer work? So that's something you just learn as you go. So you like what I went through was learning that I was doing too much work, so then you need to get more of the life balance. It's a lot easier to do a lot more work when you don't have kids or a partner. But if things are starting to get stressful at home, it could be because you're working too much and your partner's having to do too much, or we've been lucky enough to never get to that point. And my wife is working now, and during the school holidays, I don't work on Mondays and Tuesdays because I look after the kids because she works those days. So there's a good amount of balance going on at the moment. And now because my daughter goes to high school and the boys go to primary school still, so we have a bit more of a complex drop off and pick up. I'll finish early on Mondays and Tuesdays and pick the kids up. So lucky to be in that position to be able to do that. So that's how the balance works out. And I do a lot of my quoting and paperwork and computer work after hours. So, and that's just I like doing it then. In a perfect world, I would have a day off to do it, like a day off site. But when I can get a lot of work done when I'm working on site. So as long as I can do the work, paperwork and office work at night or early in the morning, and it doesn't affect the way I'm doing it, then there's no reason to stop doing it like that. Outdoor Dreams AU says long pants or shorts all year. So there's so many questions that are asked at a good time because up until the winter just gone, I was shorts forever. I'd only wear shorts, and people would always say, "Oh, you must be cold," but that wasn't too bad. But I think because I'm getting older, the cold was starting to get to me. I don't know if it's just the year or I'm doing less on site, but I wore pants for a fair bit of winter and they were pretty good. So they'll be coming out again in a few months for winter. It's a bit of a shame, but I was team shorts, but I'm changing over. Gives me Gardening says, I do maintenance and small landscaping. I find it hard to get good staff and keep them. But as I'm getting older, I need a hand. What do I do? Keep pushing myself or reinvent myself? At the end of the day, I make the same or less than the 20-year-old that works for me. So it depends on how you're wanting to go about things and whether you enjoy doing what you do. or and whether the money you're making is enough. Because if you're making enough money, like whatever you're paying yourself, if you're able to live the life that you want to live, and there's no stress from lack of money, then it doesn't matter what other people are getting paid. Like if other people are getting paid more than you, and you can keep them, well, that's good. So if that's because that's helping you run the business the way you want to. So as long as if you're earning enough, then it doesn't matter what other people are getting paid. Like I don't make a hell of a lot more than per hour than my guys. I just work a lot more hours, but it works well for me. So there's no need to change. In terms of work, what was he said? Need a hand. So basically, Stephen needs a hand, so he can't do it all himself. So, and he asked whether he should keep pushing or reinvent himself. So I would definitely not keep pushing, because by the time you realise that you need help, you probably needed help earlier. So it's not going to get any easier as you go forward, especially you mentioned as you get older. So you're not getting any younger as the days go by. So I definitely would reinvent yourself, or choose jobs that you can do by yourself, and be more selective on the top type of jobs that you take on. So those jobs might be more profitable. Doing maintenance and landscaping, you might want to niche down into just one and focus on the one and really, really kill it. But I understand it, like you want to do both, so you've got enough work to do. But if the possibility is there to niche down into one, that's what I would do. Landscaped has said, Cert 3 in landscape construction or horticulture for a new apprentice. So if you haven't listened to the episode with Martin Semkin, that was one I would recommend to listen to, because he does a horticulture certificate for his landscape construction crews. So, and I reckon it's an awesome idea. So it depends what you do in your business, but if you're like I am, like a good in landscape construction, you can teach them everything about landscape construction on site. Whereas you're not going to be doing, like, we don't do plants as much as we do construction. So you could spend 6 weeks building a landscape and then 2 days to put the plants in. So you're doing obviously soil prep before that as well, but there's not as much time spent on the horticulture side of things. So if they can learn that thing at a TAFE as well as you teaching the construction, that's what I think a good way to do is. But in saying that, my guys don't do that. So I reckon it's something that we'll look into. But then again, it's back to why I like to send my guys to TAFE, so that they can create relationships with other landscapers who are there for themselves as they're going through the apprenticeship, but then also once they finish the apprenticeship, they may end up starting their own business. So it's good to have those type of relationships for them as well. So it's not just all about the business. But purely, if it is purely for your business and purely for their knowledge, then I think a certificate in horticulture is a good way to do it. Next question's from Ashley James. Do you have a favourite garden style that you, 1, like the best, and 2, like to build? So I would say, I don't know what the actual style is, but basically I would say it's kind of like a modern high end, if that makes any sense, but probably not. But if you look at the work that Steve Taylor from Cos Design does, that's my dream work. So that his style is my favorite to build and also to look at. But I do like what Ash does actually with his perennials and wildflowers. I think it looks amazing. So I wouldn't so much like to build it because there's not as much construction involved in those designs he does. There's a bit of timber work and nice rural kind of timber work, but I love stone details and hardscaping and that sort of thing. So, and then the plants, a nice juxtaposition, as they say, with the hardscaping. Freeman Landscaping said, how is Melbourne with staff skill shortages? So first off, I'm in Geelong, so I don't know about Melbourne. So it's a verbal warning for Freeman Landscaping. But I think it's the same everywhere in the world, not just Australia. Everyone seems to be struggling with staff, no matter what industry you're in. And I think I mentioned last week it might be a good option to try That's the same with what Gives Me Gardening said before, but it could be a good option to try more like 3 days a week or 2 days a week to see if you can get employees that way, because there might be people who can do shorter stints for whatever reason, like they might have to look after their kids. So just be flexible with what you're offering. That might help be able to get people in, and you can still be continually looking for some full-time people at the same time. But yeah, that might get someone's foot in the door, and then they might end up wanting to add more hours to their add more days to their week that they can work. So yeah, so it's better off to get someone for 2 days a week rather than no one who can work 5 days a week. Paddy Smith 12 said, what finish do you prefer for the corners on a deck, a picture frame or faceboard? So I like the picture frame for it looks good, and also the amount of the skills required to do it well, because you've got to build out their joists so that the picture frame is supported, and then miter the corners as well. But then they can potentially get a bit of movement if you don't go over the top on the miters. So yeah, for simplicity, it's nice for the faceboard. And what I mean by that, in case anyone doesn't know, a picture frame is basically what it's like if all your decking boards are running one way, and then there's a board at the end that they butt into, and that board around the border basically follows the shape of the deck like a picture frame. So it's like a border around the deck, and then all the boards, the infill boards, all run the same way, butting into that. So it looks pretty nice. It's definitely a higher end look to it. And we've done both, and not really hardcore one way or the other. Living Landscapes DC says, what's something that you know now that you would have liked to have known 10 years ago? So I reckon the way that the efficiency works with having more people on. So the other thing I say is 2 people don't work twice as fast as 1, and 3 people certainly don't work 3 times as fast. So the more people you have on, the slower that percentage seems to be, which I've said a million times makes 0 sense to me. I don't understand it at all. But that's something you need to allow for when you're quoting, because that's where I lose most of my profit, is from not allowing enough days. So you hear people banging on about saying you should charge this much per hour and whatever, but it's really irrelevant what you're charging per hour if you're not allowing enough days. So yeah, you need to allow enough time for everything. And it's also good, you're better off allowing too much time than not enough, so that you can do things really well and properly and make money with it, not just doing it well and losing money. So yeah, that's something I'm still continuing to work on now, is allowing enough time to do the jobs properly. So we do them properly, but I just don't make any money on them. So that's something that certainly can be improved. Lloyd Sharp said, do you find it hard to find and retain workers? So I don't find it, I don't find it hard to retain them, but I find it hard to choose the right ones, if that makes sense. So there's not a lot. I've only had maybe 2 that have left on their record since I've employed people. And I've had a hell of a lot that I've let go because I didn't think they met our standards, or there was briefly about, I don't know, maybe 12 months ago, we're struggling for $1, so I had to let a few go because of that. But yeah, mainly it's me picking the wrong people, because it's so hard to choose someone, and then if you haven't worked for a day, you've got no idea what they're actually going to be like over a longer period of time. So I'm not good at picking apprentices, but I have had 2 who have been with me since they were apprentices, and they're now both qualified. So every now and then you get a good one, but I think you've just got to. A lot of people say hire slow and fire quick. So spend more time choosing the right person. But then once you realise you don't have the right person, then you should let them go. But in saying that, one of the qualified guys who I've got, after his first, I was thinking of getting rid of him, but we had no one else. And we needed an extra body, so I'd have kept him on. And then after he'd finished his first year as an apprentice, it was like a switch flicked inside him, and he turned into a superstar. So his first year he was useless, but then all of a sudden he was awesome. So if I had just acted fast and got rid of him, then it would have been a massive mistake. And there's other people who I've let go who have turned out to be good landscapers. So Yeah, it's staff is definitely the hardest thing about any business, really. And yeah, landscape is no different. So yeah, tricky to find at the moment. And then I don't find them hard to retain because the work we do is pretty awesome. Like if you're wanting to get into landscaping, most people would want to work for like do the type of projects that we do. So if people wanted to stay, then we be able to retain them. Revive landscapes, living walls. How do you find time to build gardens when you're so busy making TikToks and podcasts? So doing it at times like this. So that's when I do the podcasts. I'll do the edit it on a Sunday as well, like the normal episode. And it's 8:30 on a Sunday night now. And yeah, my wife and kids are in bed, so nothing else to be doing. I've turned into one of those weirdos who doesn't watch TV at all. I always used to think it was odd when people would say that, and I didn't believe them. But now that's me. So yeah, I'll watch NFL and AFL, the two different types of football, but I'll watch them on my phone as well. So yeah, literally don't watch TV. So got plenty of time to be doing work if that's what I want to be doing. And some of the recent reels that I've been recording, like I've been getting to the shed at like 6 o'clock in the morning and doing some work on the garden show build. So there's a lot of hours in the day if you sit down and think about it. So there's plenty of time, and they don't take a lot of time to do. If it's a time lapse, I'll just turn it on and do the work I was going to do anyway. And then there's clearly not a lot of editing that goes into them. So yeah, it's not as much work as what it looks like potentially, if you think it looks like a lot of work. Barrow and Stone said, what's the first question you ask or get asked when going to a quote consultation? So the first question I like to ask is what they're wanting to use the space for. So usually it's the backyard that they're more focused on. The front yard is pretty standard, and they're usually a smaller block, so there's not too much you can go crazy with in the front yard. It's more about if they want a fence or not, and if they want the path separated from the driveway. Not too fancy at the front, but at the back you want to find out if they want to entertain. So if they're going to entertain a bit, you want to make a bigger area for them to do so. A lot of houses have like a standard 3 meter by 3 meter alfresco area, so you might want to extend that a bit so they can use it and make sure there's enough room for a table in there. There's not a common question I could think of that I get asked a lot, but the one that I dread getting asked is, what do you think? So you ask, you get to go to the appointment and see what they want to get done, and you ask them, what do you want from the space? And then they'll just say, I don't know, what do you think? So, and I don't live there, and there's a million different options you could do. And I'm not that good at thinking of things on the spot either. Most of the time I need to go away and think about what to do with a space. So that's why I don't like doing a lot of the consultations at the garden show and the Pull and Spa show. People bring in their designs and want you to talk to stuff about it. Because sometimes I can think of stuff on the spot, but other times I can't. So I don't want to have someone book an appointment with me and then I say, oh, this is our design. What do you think about this? So I don't know. I'll get back to you in a week. So yeah, some people are awesome at thinking things on the spot and doing a hand sketch, but I'm someone who needs to think about it more. And I often find I always take the time to think about things, designs properly, and then I'm always happy with what I come up with. Whereas if I rush something, I'm not happy. It's no good, so it's a waste of time. So sometimes the designs take longer than I want them to, but it does work out a better result. But good things come to those who wait, as they say. James Ronan has said, what tools that you spend the extra bucks on because the level of quality makes your job top end? But the only thing I could think of was like a track saw just to do straighter cuts. So like we don't have any. No, we do have cheap tools like I spoke about last week, like the Zeto ones, but there's no like most tools these days are all pretty good quality. Like all the ones we have are anyway. So there's nothing like you could go pretty fancy, like get the 40-volt Makita stuff, but that seems pretty useless because I've got the 18-volt and that does what we needed to do. So I don't know what more the 40 volt could do, unless you like charge it less. But if you've got enough batteries, that doesn't matter. So there's nothing I could think of other than the track saw, which is like a guide for your circular saw to run across. So if you're doing a deck, for example, you could just run all the boards along, and then you set your track saw down, cut across that, and then you've got a nice straight cut. Whereas we used to just do a pencil mark line and then cut along by eye with the circular saw. But yeah, there's nothing else I could think of that's really high-end tools that we use. Like we've got some expensive tools, but they just do a simple job. I think it's more your skills that help with the high-end side of things. So like with doing miters, you could get a fancy brick saw or tile saw that does miters, but I can do it with a grinder. So that's not so much a tool, it's more just experience. Living Landscaper DC has got another one. How did you get your name out there and advertise? So I did a lot of thinking about it in the second iteration of Install Gardens. So I started the business, I took over the business from my boss, and then went and worked at the bank, and then got back into it again for this second run at it. So that was 2015. I got back into it again, and I set about wanting to work on high-end projects. So we did the work on the block and did the garden shows, and went to a lot of Landscape Victoria events as well. Just wanting to make sure everyone knew who we were, knew that we existed, because there's a lot of landscapers around, and I wanted like designers who are top end designers who are mostly based in Melbourne. When they get work down in Geelong, I wanted us to be the one that they think of. So that's how you just sort of need to get your name out there and get people to know that you exist. And that's how I did it. And then, and it was when I started to realize it was working, it's a pretty cool feeling, because I've always been a sort of fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy and just make things up as I go. But I'd actually set out a plan and it actually worked. So it was pretty cool. And now it's going crazy. Like we could have 3 times, like what the work we're doing, we could do 3 times the same amount and still have heaps of high-end work that we do. So it's pretty satisfying to think of, but it's not something you sit back and think of because we've got too much work to get done. But when I do think of it, it's pretty cool. So yeah, you just got to get your name out there, so to get involved and get yourself out of your comfort zone. So go to landscaping association events and just get to know designers and other people and suppliers, and just make sure everyone knows who you are for the right reasons. And don't be salesy or pushy. Just got to be patient about it, because no one likes you. Like you don't go up to the designer and say, "Let me know if you got any work on." So you just want to, just show that you've got some nice work. So on your Instagram, be consistent when you're posting. Don't just post once every month, and then when you do get a good job, then you got to nail it and then post heaps about it again. So make sure you're taking heaps of photos while you're doing it. So just sort of think advertising while you're doing all your work. How are you going to advertise it, make it look the best? Waddell Design said, "Can we get the intro theme music back?" That's from when I don't know what episode I stopped putting it in there, but I was getting a bit sick of the intro, and I was also, because I was putting this on YouTube, I was putting photos on there. So I think I'd have to get like 6 photos from whoever the guest was, and I'd edit that into a separate video for the intro. So yeah, thought it's easier just not to do that. So stopped doing it and realized no one really needs to listen to the music before the podcast starts. Still got the little break in there after I do my first intro, but that's long enough. That's 3 seconds worth. So that won't be coming back unless Rob wants to sing me an intro that we can put in there. I might put one in then. Earthcore Landscape says, "What's the best wheelbarrow on the market?" So I'm not much of a wheelbarrow connoisseur, but we just got a new Kelso steel wheelbarrow, and they're really nice to do a concrete pour out of when it's a steel barrow and it hasn't been bashed around, because the concrete just flows out of it nicely. But my favourite wheelbarrow that we've got is it's just a black poly tub, so like a plastic tub, and it's got wooden handles. I don't know if it's a Kelso or Westmix, but but yeah, it's got some nice old school wooden handles. We've also got so what I got from my parents for my 21st birthday, I got given a narrowbarrow. So it's NARRABARRA. So it's a narrow wheelbarrow. And I'd never seen one at the time, and I thought it was the stupidest idea in the world because it carries maybe 80% of the volume of a normal wheelbarrow. So like I can push a normal wheelbarrow. So what's the point of having this skinny one? But then since then, now I've got 3 of them because they come in handy. So and I've still got that one from my 21st birthday. They did get me other things though, so it wasn't just the wheelbarrow. But yeah, they're pretty good. And I'm pretty sure they might be Kelso as well. So maybe Kelso would be my wheelbarrow of choice. But yeah, I've seen these ones that are quite rectangular. I think bricklayers like using them. I don't know if concreters do, because they would maybe distribute the concrete when you're pouring it more evenly rather than through the funnel. But yeah, not much of a connoisseur, so I couldn't say. But I think most of what we use are Kelso. Leaf Mowing and Gardens says, where do you get all your crazy stop motion ideas from for your reels? So the first one I did, I got, I saw, my wife sent me a TikTok actually from Broad Landscapes. I don't know, it may have been Instagram, but yeah. So he does some amazing stuff. It's phenomenal. So I was just sort of basically using what he did as inspiration. The first one I did was some 5 pavers, I think, that are just walking along and laying themselves. And then since then, I just sort of just think of them randomly. Just when you look at thinking of what you could do, what you're doing, wondering if you can do a stop motion in it without taking up the entire day, like the world's greatest reel did with the lawn laying itself. Sometimes I think the guys might have recommended 1 or 2 that we've done. But yeah, it's just random. And then if I see someone else has done one on Instagram, I'll either copy it or do something, use that as inspiration as well. But if anyone's got any suggestions, feel free to send it through. If there's any ones you want to see. But some of the things just take too long to do. So I actually have to get some work done. I don't think I'll be doing any at the garden show, any stop motion videos. It depends how we're going. Because the paving in the pergola area is only, I think, probably about 3 by, I don't know, maybe 10 square meters. So that maybe we won't do that, just because it's not going to be hard enough without doing one of those videos. So we'll see how we go. See how we're going for time. Where's the next question? That's another Ashley James one. No one ever asked what your favorite plant is. So what is it and why? So I think I haven't mentioned it a couple of times, but it's frangipani. Just because of the smell and the form of the way the trees grow. And my mum, that was always her favourite flower when I was growing up. So that's how I became aware of it. And then and they're amazing. Absolutely love the smell of them. And I do like gardenia as well. So that's like kind of in terms of the fragrance of the flower, that's about as equivalent as we'll get down here in Victoria. You can grow frangipanis, but they're very difficult to grow. So gardenia is a lot easier. I got one at my back door, and when it's flowering, I'll just walk out there, randomly smell the flower, and then walk back inside like the weirdo I am. But yeah, anything with a nice smelling flower I like, and a lot of tropical ones as well. So I do like a hibiscus. I had one of them. Got bird of paradise, normal and the giant one. They look pretty cool. And my bromeliad is flowering as well, so they're a pretty cool plant. That Alcantara silver plum. Kev from I can't remember where he's from. Kev Quelch, Innovasis Design, tells me that they're like a agave and they die after they flower. So it's not good news from a bromeliad. Living Landscapes DC has said, how do you navigate learning or trying things that you haven't done before? So I'm very inquisitive on the way other people do things on site. So whether they're like builders doing things or concreters or bricklayers or just anyone else that you see on site, I'm always looking at how they do things and just picking up little bits along the way. And then you can tweak that to the way you're doing something. And so that's one way I'll learn how to do things. And then the more experience you get as well, you just you see something and try it. Like, well, this is how I do it anyway. But I'll see something and I'll be thinking about how it's built. So a client will show me a photo of something saying, "Can you do this?" And I'm immediately thinking, "How would we do it?" And then if I'm not sure of something, I'll just look on YouTube. So that's a pretty good resource to have these days, which wasn't around when I started. But yeah, and pretty much anything that exists can be found on YouTube. I'm looking to do a little bit more architectural concreting, so we did the Hungry Roof course for the floating steps. So that was pretty good, learning some little details on that. And we've also worked with Ollie a couple of times, so it was good to, so we would take apart his formwork. So it was good to see how the formwork went together, because that's the trickiest part with that concreting, is setting up the formwork so that it's not going to move, but also so that you can take it apart at the right time and don't have to get a crowbar in there to get the formwork off. So yeah, so working with other people, other trades, is a good way to learn different ways to do those things. Ainsley 490 asked a question which I wasn't able to answer, unfortunately. So veggies, for veggies, the wicking beds or traditional beds with drip irrigation. So I would have to Google that answer to know, or Google that question to know what the answer is, because I don't have enough experience with veggie gardens. I've only had one, which went pretty well, but I used corrugated iron raised beds, and we filled most of it up with garden mix, and then top 200 ml with potting mix, like a veggie garden potting mix. So yeah, that went really well, but I was just hand watering it, and that was 7 years ago, and it's the only time I've done it. So we built some raised veggie gardens. So I definitely would raise them up, but yeah, I couldn't say what the best way to go about it is. My grandparents could; they were pretty good at it. They had some amazing soil, which was like in the ground. They'd just been working on for years, but wasn't that interested in gardens back then, so didn't ask them. Rob Finlay says, "Too late to relay lawn." I wouldn't think it'd be too late. No, I think it's probably a pretty good time, because possibly too early, if anything. You'd want to wait till it's not too hot for it. But yeah, definitely not too late. So, and even if it is when it's dormant, so I reckon May would be too late in a perfect world, but you can still lay it in May, and it's just going to sit there dormant. So you just see the joints more. But yeah, you could certainly lay it now. Let's see, we've got our last question. This is from Ashley James, so could say save best or last, or otherwise. And it's not even, he didn't actually ask a question, it's just a statement, so he's had trouble reading sometimes. A daily update of your progress at MIFCUS in your stories would be good for people to see. It's a good statement. That is something I'll plan on doing anyway, so I'll be spamming that Instagram with garden show stuff. Can't wait for it to start. It's only 4 weeks away till we start. And yeah, I'm just super pumped for it to start. I can't wait for it. It's something I've been since last year's garden show, I've been wanting to do this year's garden show. So I've been thinking about that since then. And I don't reckon there'd be a fortnight that would have gone by that I wasn't thinking about how we're going to do it. And now we're only 4 weeks out. So yeah, it's starting to get to the pointy end, starting to get stuff built for it and organising things and paying for things, unfortunately. So yeah, it's pretty close, but I'll definitely be doing a lot of posting about it. And I mean, I'm looking into getting a videographer for it as well. So then we can have someone. So it's not just me doing things, because I want to actually be building things so that we get it finished on time. But it'd be good to have a videographer who can, record everything and then puts together some pretty cool reels to post and longer format videos potentially. So yeah, that's something I'm looking to do. So if anyone's got any recommendations on anything for that, please send them through. Otherwise, it might just be me. I'll just tape a GoPro to my head and see how we go doing that. But yeah, thank you very much for everyone who put in a question. And so we had 20 questions this week, so that was awesome again. And I managed to get through them pretty quick without having to have a 1 hour episode. So we'll do it again next week. And thank you very much for everyone who put in a question, and we'll see you then. Tomorrow's episode is coming out tomorrow. Liam Riley from Indigenous Design Landscape will be coming out tomorrow on the 20th of Feb. So yeah, awesome guy to talk to. Does residential and commercial, so and sustainable and environmentally sensitive landscape. So pretty cool guy. So that's a good chat. So yeah, we'll see you next time.